Hi, Rob Gregory, Becotix. I think we've got something which will bring a benefit to a smart city, and that's a product, and it's something called Becotix. So I just want to start off with a quote this evening. The quote's this: as a passenger, the thing I love most about public transport is just how simple tickets and fares are to understand. And can anyone tell me who that quote's from?
Presumably no one.
That's right, nobody ever. There's absolutely no chance that anybody would ever utter those words. And that's because, sorry?
They will do eventually.
They will do eventually, yeah. And that's because public transport is really, really complicated to understand. There's a whole array of different tickets, different ways of buying those tickets, and different meanings of those tickets. Everything from a single to a return to a day ticket, a week ticket, cross-provider ticket, a season ticket, all these different things, and actually it's quite confusing. And actually it can be quite intimidating to some people at the point of travel. So we think it'd be better if the world was improved. And wouldn't it be really great if you didn't have to buy a ticket or spend money on a ticket, cash on a ticket, use a ticket, use a special card, or tap your phone or your wallet on some special device. And they're really annoying things to do. Wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to know about the time that you need to use that ticket? Wouldn't it be great if you could board and then make a decision about going to a different place once you're actually on that mode of transport? All these things would be really good. Now imagine if you were a bus company or a train company, and you could do all these things without having to have expensive ticket machines on your platforms or on your buses. And also imagine if you're a local authority and you can let the general public use different modes of transport in really new, innovative ways, and it all be joined up. So you're thinking, wow, Rob, that's amazing. That's public transport utopia. That is brilliant. Never going to happen. Well, we think it is. Enter Becotix. Now, at Becotix, we're looking to change this. We're a multimodal, multi-platform, ticketless app. Okay. What we use location-based technology and the power of these things, mobile phones. At the moment, public transport is driven, or ticketing on public transport is driven by lots of expensive equipment, littered all over the place, really expensive to maintain, a lot of it's legacy. But actually, these devices that we all carry in our pockets, they're really powerful. And the great thing about our solution is that we're actually moving that burden away from the providers to the users of the systems. These things get upgraded every 18 months. So the transport companies don't have to think about it any longer. We're doing the work for them. So, how does it work? Well, if you imagine, for this example, a bus route. We have some assets on the bus route, they're bus stops. So what we do is we put some low energy beacon devices on those bus stops. We've also got buses on that route, and equally, we add some low energy beacon devices, Bluetooth devices called beacons, to those vehicles. The third part of the story then is obviously the people who are using those buses, and they've got those devices in their pocket. So now we've got a way of individuals still using a bus in the way that they always did, but that bus is now smart, and those bus stops are now smart. And with that comes the app that user is actually going to use. It's a really simple app. Download the app and register. Got a simple screen that lets them know where they are when they're at a bus stop, so we actually know where they are as they approach a bus stop. They hit the right button, that displays a pass, so no ticket here, just a pass. They just show to the driver. He lets them on the bus because he knows that's the right colour combination and word combination for the day. And that's it. They can ride. No ticket bought, they didn't have to know where they were going, they didn't care about buying a day ticket or a week ticket, they're just using the bus. Actually, forget about those two outside screens, it's these two in the middle that the user really cares about, because once they've got the app, all they do is they rock up to a bus stop, hit ride now, show the pass, get on the bus and go travel. And they can do that all day long. Then, sometime in the future, a few moments later or a few days later, depending on their journey profile, we're going to charge them the best fare. So rather than having to find out what the fare is, rather than trying to discover if I should be getting a day ticket because I'm going to do 3 journeys, you just travel. And we do best fare calculations in the background. So that's the mobile app. So that does all the simple stuff of the user interaction, but where does the heavy lifting happen? Well, that happens in our cloud. That happens in our cloud services. We send all the beacon log data from the individual's device up to the cloud. We then go through a process of determining a journey from that. So we've got a very clever algorithm that looks at all the different beacon interactions, the times that people were interacting with those beacons, both bus and bus stop, and from that we can determine actually what a journey looks like, confirm it's a journey, send that back to the device so the user knows that their journey's been tracked correctly. We then do some other things as well. We do reconciliation, so we look at actually which route they're on and who needs to be paid for that travel, so that can go out to the various different transport companies, local authorities, whoever it may need to be. And then of course there's our friend integrations. We're not naive, we know this won't just take over immediately, we know we're going to have to interact with those existing systems, ITSO being the big one in public transport, and also integrating with other systems as well. We've just started looking at how we can go about building an open data API as well, because I think there's going to be some really interesting data in here which other people are going to want to get their hands on. So we're thinking about that too. So that's the cloud. So we're actually in the field doing trials at the moment. This is me a couple of weeks ago on a bus between Bradford and Keighley using this system to travel. I didn't buy a ticket, I had no money in my pocket, I just got on the bus, it tracked my journey, and a couple of minutes after I got off the bus, it appeared and it said that it just charged me 90p. So we're in trials at the moment. We're actually up there, myself and Andy are up there for the next 2 days, so I'm hoping the weather's going to improve. Between Keighley and Bradford, testing this system in preparation for a live trial with real life customers starting at the end of January. And that's with our partners here, Transdev and West Yorkshire Combined Authority. So here it is. We've been going 5 months now as a startup. We've built this technology. We've deployed a beacon network on a bus route between Bradford and Keighley, and the technology works. The next step is now to understand the propensity to change for those users on that bus, and that's what we'll be doing during this trial. So if anyone is interested and would like to come along and have a go, you can go to the website address there, you can register. The trial is actually on Android devices. We will be doing obviously iOS and maybe Windows down the line, but now it's Android. So please register, and we'd love to see you up there from the end of January for 2 months. So just like to finish off with a quote, because we started with one, and that is, with Becotix, I can easily travel using different modes of transport and always be charged in the same simple way. That's no tickets, just travel. Okay, thank you very much. So, have I got time to have a go at a quick demo, see if people want to see it? Is everyone okay with that? That's in.
Has anyone got any questions while we're setting up?
I got a question, but one of the problems we've got in the railway industry is that they don't know which train you're travelling. So you buy your ticket, but if you're at a station like Oxford, there are 3 or 4 different companies that you work. So they actually use statistical algorithms and work out what they think the number of passengers are going to be and so on. So an opportunity for you here is to actually be able to associate the travel with a particular train company.
Absolutely. And then we can tell which trains they've actually got on, because we can track them in real time. So we can feed back into that algorithm to make it better.
Because that's a blind. I'm saying that it's about 3 years since I've looked at it. They may have cracked it now, but 3 years ago that was a blind spot.
Yeah, I don't think they've cracked it yet. Until they get actually boarding information, they're not going to crack it.
One question I've got, sorry, 2 questions, is what happens if the battery dies on the individual's phone? And also, you can opt to turn Bluetooth on and off on a phone and disable that. So, is there an assumption that your Bluetooth's on and the battery's always there, effectively? And what happens if it...
So, in the first trial, if you regularly travel on our system, we can calculate that normally you travel between 2 stops. We can substitute that.
Right.
If we don't, you're not a regular traveller, we will charge you to the end of the route, and that's exactly the same as you would get on any of the other bus systems. If you go and can't specify where you're going to, you get charged the longest distance.
Okay. So that's assuming it dies when you're on the bus?
On the bus. If it dies before you're on the bus,
you don't get on the bus?
You don't go on the bus.
Yeah.
The same as if you turn up without any cash.
You don't get on, yeah.
We can't solve that problem.
Yeah.
Can I ask something? Transport providers, train companies, bus companies, airlines, everybody trying to get competitive advantage. So that's why there's such complexity over the fares, special offers, different age groups, rail cards for old people and students and so on. Even if you can manage all that and get the person the right best fare, aren't you going to get resistance from the supplier who's going to feel that his competitive advantage is damaged by this system?
So if you look at Trainline, for instance, that's a portal that allows you to access fares from all the different train companies. What we're doing is no different to that. When we go forward, especially with rail, because rail is very different to bus, I think there'll be two types of feed into our system. One will be pre-bought tickets, which you'll buy in advance and will enable you to travel on a certain train, and we'll track you're actually doing that. And the second is a walk-up fare, the same as you've got now, and it's the walk-up fare where you'll be tracking us on a real-time basis.
So I've got another related question, or two, I guess. First of all, have you worked out the optimum time frame to figure out what the best fare is? So presumably there are weekly and monthly deals. You know, if you do the same route a certain number of times. So are you charging immediately and then refunding later, or are you paying out of your funds and then charging the customer later?
The method we've adopted for the trial is to use a cap, so a daily cap and a weekly cap.
Right.
So once you hit that daily cap in a day, the rest of your travel is free.
Okay.
Likewise, using a rolling week model, you've got 7 days, and once you've done enough travel to reach that weekly cap, you then have free travel.
Okay, so that kind of addresses my second question, which is that the fare structure is predicated on traditional technology and ways of buying tickets, not on your technology. And presumably your technology enables a whole different fare structure.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right, Chris, because
Yeah.
at the moment we're competing with existing ticketing systems.
Yeah.
Once you've got this, you've suddenly moved to a whole brave new world where you can have completely personalised ticketing
Yes.
systems, and you can start to move to mobility as a service where you can couple this with, actually if you know you normally get the bus and you're incentivised to get off the bus and cycle or walk, you can start to give people discounts or incentives to do other things. So anyone that's looked at mobility as a service, which is paying, say, a set fee every month for travel,
Yeah.
renting cars or going on the bus or the train, this feeds very nicely into it. And what we're doing now is that interim location to what will happen probably in 5 or
Okay.
10 years'
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You'll also change the business model because you will allow dynamic pricing. So if I've got a train that could carry 300 people but I've only got 4 people on it, I could start making a price to 2p.
You're absolutely right. I used to work for a bus company, and we knew that, say, on a Wednesday afternoon, if it rained,
Yeah.
our buses would be half empty.
Yield
So
management.
now I've got direct means of communication with my people that are on that bus route. I can say to them, if you we know it's raining, travel on our bus this afternoon, we'll give you 30% discount. That's actually a really way of keeping our public transport full.
Yeah.
Likewise, we can do real-time hotspots of where the system is being used the most at that time. So that can be really useful to feed back into the system for route planning as well in the future.
So is that
Dynamic.
yield management going to have a positive effect on the social aspect of public transport services, or is it going to allow another level of optimization to rationalise it buses away from
Can I-
communities?
Yeah, go for Andy, yeah, please.
So there's a legacy app which just duplicates current ticketing systems that's been launched in Preston with Preston Bus.
Yeah.
And they are saying it will reduce bus dwell time, which is the amount of time bus sits at a bus stop, by 50% by 2020 as the uptake goes through. So if you think about that in terms of a city and your clean area zones, reducing the amount of time a bus is sitting there by 50% of the time means you've also reduced all the time the traffic sitting behind it is sitting there. You get better flow through your cities, you get less pollution, and you get more productivity. There was a government study about 5 years ago that said if you could reduce dwell times, I can't remember the exact number, by about 30%, it would have something like a £12 billion effect on the uplift on the economy.
Right.
So you can start to see that
So you're
small
increasing
changes
bus
have a
company
massive effect.
profits, but are you providing more bus services to communities?
Well,
Or is that a decision for the
well,
transport exec?
that's a secondary decision.
Yeah.
A lot of those are subsidised by the councils that we can't influence. But what we can do is we can improve bus efficiency, because if the stops are shorter, then the regularity is more correct and people know when the buses are going to be there. I'll come back to you in a second. And that means people are more reliable. And if buses are more proficient and more people use them, that will drive up the capacity to put more buses into service.
Does that mean that a customer, there's dynamic information about where a bus is? If you're sitting at the bus stop, you'll actually be able to see it and know where it is?
It's not intended to do that, but it will transmit information back in almost real time, so we can start to track buses in that way, yeah.
Because one of the big issues in places like Sheffield is that there's an affluent middle class who still simply refuse to step on a bus,
Yeah.
and will quite happily pay 12 quid for parking when it might cost 50% of that, even at current prices, just so that their families
And I
get
think
there.
the first thing is it's removing the barrier that a lot of people don't want to get on the bus because the bus drivers are grumpy.
Yeah.
They can't actually articulate where they want to go to, because if you get on the bus and say I want to go to Tesco's, the bus might go through past 3 Tesco's. So which one do you want to get off at, and
Yeah.
what should the driver charge you? You don't know you're getting best value fare, which this immediately gives you, and it's one of the bit that can't sit my mind because I'm losing my voice.
So are you
Maybe-
factoring dynamic information about the buses into the user experience? Are you thinking about that?
We're definitely thinking, one of the things we've looked at, and it's in the next phase, is what's my favourite bus stop and real-time information. So say you're sitting at work,
Yeah.
you can say my favourite bus stop is outside Friegate or whatever, and we'll tell you what time your bus is going to be there, so you can leave work just in time to get to the bus
Yeah.
stop. You don't need to stand in the cold.
Can we have a maybe discussion at one of the
Yeah.
table discussions? 'Cause I think there's a lot of questions about this. Sorry, Tim.
Some-
I think we should do the demonstration after as well, because there's no Wi-Fi at the moment, so it's not going to work.
Oh, okay.
I need to do a top-up on the device, you see, with some credits, and we need some Wi-Fi for that. So
Okay,
we
well,
can set
that's
that up,
demo
we can do a
afterwards.
demonstration in small groups
Alright.
afterwards.
Okay. Well, in that case, thanks very much,
Cool,
Rob.
thank you very much.
And